About 38% of the Hawaiian Islands were Japanese American. First generation, they call them Nisei. That's first generation Japanese American. Now think about it. The most famous member of the Japanese American, the 442nd, was the Senator Daniel Inouye. He just died a few years ago. All right. The Nisei warriors, the Japanese Americans that joined up to fight against the Japanese, first generation Japanese, they are the most decorated military regiment in the history of American warfare. Now, I was at the Bishop Museum a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, and they had a few of those Japanese Americans talking story about their experience. Last year, I went to the Chinese Cultural Center here in Honolulu, and the French government pinned on them, the survivors of the 442nd, the Legion of Honor. The Legion of Honor was started by Napoleon, okay? Now that was last year. At the Bishop Museum, a guy tells this story. A Japanese American on the island, big island of Hawaii, gets permission from his mom to join the army. He joins the 442nd, but he leaves the 442nd and he ends up in the OSS. Now the OSS is the precursor of the CIA. Now, put that story on hold for a second. I'm going to come back to this. There's an American guy in the Doolittle Raiders of Japan. They run out of gas, they get caught, they're in a prisoner camp. This guy is in a Japanese prisoner camp. He's not a Christian. Somehow he ends up with a Bible. He becomes a Christian in a Japanese prisoner camp, and God tells him in this camp, I want you, after the war, to come back here and be a missionary to the Japanese people. Now, the Japanese treated Americans as horrifically. I mean, a lot of guys were tortured and killed. Anyways, now, so this guy is going to end up in Burma. This Japanese guy who joined the 442nd goes into the OSS. He's going to end up jumping out of a plane in Burma and rescuing this guy. Okay, so now that's that story. So the white guy in the prison camp becomes a Christian, and after the war, he goes back to America, goes to school, seminary, comes back, and for over 30 years, he was a missionary to the Japanese people. Now, put that on hold. Fast forward to 1960. There's a Japanese warrior on a train in Tokyo. He reads a tract written by this man, this missionary. This Japanese guy, like a samurai warrior, he becomes a Christian. God tells him that he, as a Japanese man, needs to be a missionary to his own people. So he wants to meet the guy that wrote the tract. He meets the guy. The American guy takes him to America, introduces him to Billy Graham. Now here's the end of the story. That 1960 Japanese guy that reads the tract, he was the lead bombardier December 7th, 1941 for the Japanese.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? And when I found out about this man, he had died, and so the guy that was telling the story, I said, well, look, how do I get more information? He said, well, I can give you his sister's email address. So I emailed his sister in California, and she sent me a videotape where the guy talks about that. That's amazing, isn't it?
Amazing.
The lead bombardier of Japan.